All right, guys, one of our last videos of the night. I enjoy making this video a 10-minute job even more than I like doing reviewing individual games, but sometimes individual games are so compelling that they're worth talking about. Now, for the NFL, maybe do one recap, reaction, and then maybe, throw in some previews of the next week. The NFL will be a lot of fun tomorrow, and I'm looking forward to that as well. The biggest storyline today is Jimbo Fisher attains Kings. It's this offense, pretty much the offenses of the Texas schools. It's the Texas schools in general. Two trains maybe going in different directions. You have Sarkisian, and Texas is on the rise with Gary Patterson and that type of defensive staff. Brendan Marion, Quinn Ewers showed some sign of life, but we got to see what the injury is like. If it's a torn labrum in his shoulder, could be out a very long time. So, we have to see what Quinn Ewers' injury is like. But Xavier Worthy and Bijan Robinson, I know that Robinson, is going to be a draft pick. So it's important to develop the young guys at the University of Texas, institute that level of talent. Texas is getting recruits. They're playing good defense. They're raising the talent level. It seems like they're a big winner today. Even though they couldn't win, they pushed Alabama to the breaking point. And Bryce Young is a small quarterback. If you get to Bryce Young, obviously, like any quarterback, you can be successful. But this offense is too reliant on Bryce Young. Bill O'Brien has a lot of problems, with this offense, and he's having to replace very creative play callers such as Lane Kiffin and Steve Sarkisian. I think Nick Saban's going to have to look for somebody, in the NFL that can kind of run like a zone run scheme so that you can get explosive running backs again to kind of carry the football, for after when Bryce Young is going to leave, because who knows who's going to take over for Bryce after this year. Alabama needs to get back to being physical and running the football, and they're not doing it. But last year they were still rewarded with Mac Jones. They aired it out. So the passing game has still worked for Alabama, and maybe they'll adjust the rest of the way. Texas A&M right now is a mess. I mean, you saw how bad that App State defense was against North Carolina, and credit to Appalachian State. I mean, there's really good football players in the Sun Belt Conference. You have Coastal Carolina, you have Appalachian State, Georgia Southern, Georgia State almost beat an ACC team today. Nebraska with Georgia Southern getting a win. There were a lot of teams today that proved in the Sun Belt that they're going to be really good, like Western Kentucky, Southern Miss is in the Sun Belt. So there's a lot of good teams that are out there in the Sun Belt Conference. I'm even missing a team as well that I can't name off top of head. So today, too, Wisconsin and Iowa, two pretty bad offenses. The bad offense is lost, pro-style offense is lost. I mean, whether it was, Iowa and whether it was Wisconsin with Braylon Allen and even Graham Mertz, they didn't put up enough points against a Washington State team that is going through transition with a new coaching staff. And credit to Jake Dickert for, a huge win and putting a program that was in disarray after a sudden firing. He's taken over, done a nice job for Washington State. They won the Apple Cup last year, and it wasn't like Cam Ward was going crazy against a Jim Leonard defense. Cam Ward made the plays that he had to. But again, Wisconsin, it's almost like Virginia basketball. When you don't score a lot of points, you play close to your opponent. Iowa, again, I just love how in college football Iowa's around. I love how they run the football. I love Spencer Petras, his whole story. Listen, he's a kid from California. He's doing his best. He's a big kid. Their offense isn't rolling right now, but, Brian Ferentz, you got to give it some time for that thing to gel. There's still a long season, and Iowa wins a lot of games. They're very good on both lines of scrimmages. Their defense reloads all the time. and they play a brand of football that is not all flashy. It's not all points. It's actually a lot of structure, a lot of defense, a lot of pulling guards, a lot of great offensive line play, a lot of running the football, stopping the run, trench play. It's almost like wrestling, and that's what makes the sport of football fun. Is it's a contact sport. It isn't just a 7-on-7, flag football style game all the time. I know that's what the public likes. They like aesthetics. They like, they like to see long passes complete and wildness on the scoreboard instead of just, ground and pound and a wrestler's mindset. But I like that Iowa. I like that we have teams in college football that it's not all the same like the NFL. The NFL is all pro style. They don't do air raid, and they also don't pull guards in the NFL. It's all ISO. The runs are all like outside zone. It's all the same stuff. They don't really pull. They don't do a lot of counter. And that's because the defensive linemen are so great at the NFL level. But you look at Iowa, and I love that style. Like when you watch an Iowa game, when you watch a Northwestern game, like the score is going to be a certain level. And then you can go out west and see USC, putting up huge numbers and huge points. So I like the different styles. And sometimes points don't always win you games. I mean, Tennessee is going to score a lot of points, but are they going to defend? Spencer Rattler threw for a lot of yards, didn't win the day. West Virginia had a huge day offensively. They couldn't win. They got outscored. Georgia Southern outscored Nebraska. So, listen, if you don't play defense, you're also going to be in trouble. That's the great part about this game is it does take 22 to work. Kentucky beating Florida, huge surprise. Huge surprise. I thought Florida had it going. Anthony Richardson made some mistakes. Kentucky leaned on them in the second half. They ran the football and stayed patient and out-efforted and out-talented Florida in the second half. I mean, Mark Stoops is a very good coach for Kentucky. He wins 8 or 9 games there, and he does a really nice job with Kentucky football. It's an interesting program because they're going to win 9 games. They're going to win 8 games. They're going to come in second place in the East sometimes to the University of Georgia. They can't really get to that upper tier, but they're right below it, and they're consistent, just like Kansas State. They have Kansas State in them, Kansas State to the Big 12 in Kentucky. But Kentucky's even a tougher place because historically it's been a bad football program. Bad. For the last 30 years, they haven't beaten Tennessee and Florida. And now Mark Stoops has turned that around specifically in the last 8 to 10 years. And a credit to him and his stability and the way that he gets it done. And Anthony Richardson probably trying to do too much. That offense got a little bit sloppy. And they still play with a good level of physicality to Florida. But tonight, Kentucky just showed so much poise. I still like Florida's defense a lot. I still think Florida's playing very well. It's just that Kentucky, I did not expect for them to grind it out the way that they did. So Kentucky, a big credit to Kentucky, a big credit to Washington State, a big credit to the Sun Belt like Appalachian State. And I love that league. I love that league. It has character. It is regional, which means like the games, right? If you're a Southern Miss fan, you can go to Troy. You can go to, South Alabama in Mobile. It's the South's football conference, the Sun Belt. And you have teams in Georgia, North Carolina. You even extend up to Virginia. So it's a great league, and it has really great coaches in it, and I'm glad that it's getting its praise. I really am. Oregon looks awesome. I think BYU's in a slugfest with Baylor, and BYU might even win that game by like 3. Jaron Hall's going to have to go up to Autzen to play a 3:30 game Eastern time, 12:30 Pacific. Oregon's going to be ready to rock, and I expect Oregon to put it on BYU next week. But we're going to review that game. We got Penn State and Auburn next week. Miami of Florida versus Texas A&M in a huge matchup next week. So it's going to be a splendid week. Congrats to Arkansas on a big win against South Carolina. But overall today, and again, I forgot even the lead story was Marshall defeating Marcus Freeman, beating Notre Dame, Charles Huff getting a huge win, and Marcus Freeman in that offense, Tommy Rees, It's going to have to get adjusted, but it's a tough matchup after the high of Ohio State. After Ohio State took them out physically, Marshall came in, had a great week of prep, and you have to analyze who's going to have good weeks of prep and who isn't. So I guess that's something to analyze when you look at a college football game and you look at a college football roster and a slate of games. So, it's fun. It's a great time of year, and the day was just amazing. And congratulations to Marshall, the Marshall fan base, on an exceptional win. Again, they're in the Sun Belt too. On an exceptional win at Notre Dame, one of the biggest wins in program history for Marshall. And then even App State, who beat Michigan, which was amazing. And then they go out and win their game. So overall, what a night, what a day in college football. The ACC is going to be very interesting. And man, oh man, we're going to learn a whole lot as we continue to put this puzzle together, which is known as college football.